been briefed on the case and will present Reuben's recommendations.
Thank you, Stanley. Just need a little bit of water. As you know, this is a highly complex case. Let me see here. Yeah, on the plus side, Leland's blood pressure is pretty solid. And he's at a decent weight, and he looks pretty damn healthy, right? I mean, he's a sexy guy, right? And he is sexually active in the community.
All right, that was it. Give me 1 second. So I don't want you to see this yet. So how can I do this? Is it F5? All right. Yeah, I hit it F5 and it puts it on my screen. Fantastic. 1 sec. Yeah, give me 1 sec. Ta-da. All right, so the only thing I hate worse than podiums is mics. So we'll try like this. I like wireless mics, but I'm not getting a perfect view up here, so. All right. So, hope you all enjoyed that epiphanal video. It's obviously poignant. So I typically get asked a few questions when I first step up. So I want to answer those for you. So I'm 6'5", obviously, yes, I can dunk. I am an actual samurai. And yes, clothes are expensive in the Matrix. Okay, so really, just quick about me. I'm a professional information security consultant. I focus on like penetration testing, offensive security. I've been in the industry for over 12 years professionally, but even more than any of my professional experience, it really is just what I love. I love offensive security and all that. So I feel really lucky to be able to do this professionally every day. So, oh yeah, I forgot to mention DerbyCon co-CTF winner year 1 with Justin. Yep, but we'll touch on that again in a second. Last year I revealed some of my online aliases. So in case you might not know me by Tyler, you might know me by maybe Dave Antique Kennedy, Pure Love, HD Less, The Steel Nerd, Mervyn Kitnick, Johnny Short, and of course the most effective, Sexy Bunny 19. All right, so this was from last year. It's the same corny jokes, just New Year. So bear with me. There's new content though. So disclaimer. First thing is ask questions. I actually prefer interaction. So if you guys have questions, raise your hand. And if I don't get to you, yo. Could you please unplug your laptop from sound and stuff? Yeah, good call. Actually, you know what? I'll see if I can mute it. Nope, because there's more. Yeah, that's not me. Move the mic. Yeah, it could be. And there's more audio to come too. So I think. Shoot, where's Pure Hate? Anyone else know how to turn that down on the speaker? I think it's that. But yeah, thank you. Perfect. First interaction, thank you. But yeah, if you have questions, I'm not here to talk over anyone's head. There's a lot of acronyms in this field. I'm not here to confuse people or boost my own ego. So if you have questions, just raise your hand and ask. I'd rather do that. And I'm also here for feedback. Right? So a lot of this stuff, we're going to go over a lot in this small period of time. So even if you don't have the feedback now, if you're thinking about something and you want to bring it to my attention later, that's why I'm here. I could work in a hole or a cave and be almost as happy, but I prefer feedback and try to improve my skills. So I work for a company called Gray Castle. We are awesome. We do awesome things. We have an awesome team. We focus only on information security, and we don't sell hardware or software. So if you want to work for an awesome company and join an awesome team doing awesome things, just shoot me your resume, just hit me up when I leave here. So this is Mike Stamus. I just wanted to send some props out, send some love. I just want to say, Mike, regardless of any mistakes you've made in the past, I love you, buddy. You're the man. Stand up, Mike. Mike's one of the founders of Grey Castle. We'll see if we have time. Reg, too. Reg, you're a jerk, a pain in the ass, and really hard to work with, but I love you, too. Justin, you're a gigantic pain in the ass, but I love you, buddy. So, yeah, Justin and I won the CTF Year 1, Team Sparkle Motion. There's some rumors running around that Sparkle Motion might be back next year, so watch out. Also, Team Jolly and Friends. So is Jolly in here? Did he actually make it? Or is that bum stuck in the CTF? He probably is, that frickin' bastard. And also, Breen over here. Breen, say hi. Breen's Canadian. You couldn't tell. And all the DerbyCon peeps. I want to say thanks so much for allowing me to speak. Second year. And really just doing the con. Like, I wasn't a big con goer before this. It wasn't my thing. But this is a freaking awesome event. So thanks, everybody. Thanks, DerbyCon guys. And my Peapod, baby, love you. Thanks for all your support. All right, so show of hands. Who here actually saw my talk last year? No, you didn't. Who was at my talk last year? Okay, 2 people, 3, 4 people. Who saw it? Who saw it online? Anybody? A couple hands? Okay. All right, cool. So that's cool because there's actually even some new content as well. So last year, we stayed pretty high level. I was condensed into a stable talk, so I only had half the time. So I had to cut out the tactical stuff, the technical stuff, and focus on the big picture stuff. So luckily this year we're still going to cover the big picture stuff because it has to be in the forefront of your mind to understand where I'm coming from. But we're also going to dive down deep into the weeds, talk about some technical stuff. Look forward to future talks though where we really dive down deep into technical though. So there's really 3 main things I want you to get out of this talk. First 2 are, I'm going to introduce some new terms in the hacker lexicon, which I did last year. So for all of them, go look at last year's talk. 2, I really want to inspire thought, right? I want you to think, do you believe what I'm saying? Do you agree with me? Do you disagree? Again, you can't possibly think about everything we're going to talk about here. So when you leave, think about it, mull it over. Feel free to shoot me positive or negative feedback. So the real reason why we're here for this talk, right? How to hack any target organization. That's the goal. That's what we're going to talk about. We're here to talk about the fact that today it is absolutely possible to hack any organization, regardless of the defenses they have in place, what type of organization they have, etc. So let's talk about that. So first of all, Justin is extremely skeptical. So this kind of represents some of our traditional dialogue. So do I seriously think any organization? Yes, I do. Any organization. No matter the size, yes, size does not matter. They can be huge or small. They could be a 3-person company or 30,000. It doesn't matter. Or the industry? Yes, any organization. Industry doesn't matter, right? Don't care. Or the defenses they have in place? Yes, goddammit, it doesn't matter. Every organization. One more time. Yes, I truly believe it. No matter what, any organization today can be hacked. So, show of hands. Who disagrees with me right now? You can absolutely feel free to disagree. You're allowed to be stupid. It's okay. Okay, that's cool. Give me a chance to persuade you, and I'll ask you again at the end. Who agrees with me? Anyone agree that it doesn't matter? Okay, cool. The vast majority. Awesome. Not sure why you're at this talk then, but kudos. Anybody just skeptical? Who's skeptical? Raise your hand. You can just be skeptical. I'm not sure. Maybe. Yes. I don't know enough. Okay. We got a couple. Cool. So we'll revisit that. So as a kid, I would pick up new techniques, learn a new exploit, a new tactic, a new technique, try it, learn it, love it, and then kind of move on and get hungry for the next thing. Right. So that's kind of an important piece of this. I was a huge 007 fan. Anything spy related, I love that whole genre. Love 007. Love James Bond. And I always thought that there's got to be a way to get to this, to where it's mission impossible, it's a crazy organization, they have awesome defenses in place, but they still have to be owned. There has to be a way, right? So obviously, from that perspective, maybe I come from a biased background, maybe my perception's a little bit skewed, but allow me to bring you into my world for a little bit. So again, think about it. Think about it today. How many awesome papers, research papers, text files, write-ups there are on security, right? New exploits, new techniques, new tactics. There's also so many awesome books. You could literally just spend the rest of your life reading about this stuff. So many good choices, talking about different techniques and tactics and tools. You know, some books are very specific to one tool, others are just high level. You know, Windows internals just talking about the frickin' operating systems we deal with. There's so many choices, so many good conferences and talks. There are so many good talks here. I heard so many people saying awesome things. It's just like, okay, it's kind of, you know, mind-blowing. There's good videos now. 10 years ago, I would not have expected so many freaking videos. I would not have expected the dubstep either. Thank you, Steve. But there's so many good videos. There's so many awesome movies. Well, okay. Maybe the movies aren't so good. But there's still a ton of resources, right? And there's so many awesome attack vectors. There's so many attack vectors open to us, whether it's wireless, physical, internal network, external network, you know, social engineering or phishing people, focusing on web applications, all right? And then there's very specific tools and techniques within each of these attack vectors. So everything from lockpicking, war dialing, social engineering. I'm not even touching on, you know, very specific exploits, cross-site scripting, SQL injection, all right? But the question is, who really cares? Like, there's so much stuff. How do you actually make this actionable if you want to penetrate any organization? What do you do? Which ones do you use, right? So when we zoom out and say, okay, I have all of these techniques, all these tools, all these resources available to me, which ones do I use? Are there ones that I should today just ignore, that they're unnecessary? And that's the point, that there are. There's so many good, far out there, you know, memory corruption and you know, ROP and all this stuff, all these crazy things that takes very smart people to figure out. The problem is that you don't even really need those today. So we're going to dive into this. So how do we take all of that data to get to this? To get to owning that one target that we want, regardless of defenses. So let's figure that out. So first of all, I do want to be crystal clear. This is not an advertisement. This is not marketing. This is not trying to sell you the latest APT protection. All right? I believe this wholeheartedly, without a doubt. It doesn't matter what defenses are in place today. Any organization can be owned. Right? I keep repeating this because I want you to walk away and say, I either agree or I disagree, and why. All right? I also want to be very clear about this point. I'm not talking about this as the threat agent. Right? I'm not talking about military or government or nation states who only have this capability. I'm talking about people who stick forks up their nose. All right? Me. I say this without ego or bravado, but I can hack any organization. Justin can, others of my friends. Anybody else in here know for a fact it doesn't matter that you're going to be able to get in? Raise your hand. Okay, I see a couple. It's not a completely unique skill, all right? But that's what we're talking about, individuals. Individuals can hack any organization today. Okay? It's also important to understand that I'm not saying the same thing as other speakers. So a lot of other speakers talk about how bad we are from an industry perspective, how we have to fix things and what we have to do. I'm talking about a very specific thing here, that fact, that individuals have the capabilities today to infiltrate any organization. This is not just a social engineering talk. There are technical elements and tactical elements. I used to watch videos as a kid and talks, and I'd get so disappointed because it would be something very similar. It'd be like, oh, I think these people are going to talk about what I really want to hear, what I want to learn. And then there'd be another social engineering talk. It'd be like, okay, if you want to hack any organization, fish or tailgate. There you go. All right, so we've learned that. We're moving past that. It's not just about social engineering. There's obviously social engineering elements to everything that we're going to do, and you'll see that, but it's not just about that. It's also not a penetration testing standard. I'm not talking about that. So I have pen tests where I have failed, because there are certain things that you can't control as a pen tester. There are certain attack vectors you can't use. You have extreme time limits, and a lot of times you have extreme scope limits. So normally you might say, okay, as a penetration tester, we're going to simulate what an attacker does. And they say, great, let's do that. But you know what? Don't touch our people, or these systems, or any of our remote offices. Focus on these 3 web apps. Can you do that for us? Sure. Okay, so it's not a pen test standard. I'm sure this stuff will influence pen testing in the future, but you'll see when we get into the nitty-gritty that there are things that you can't mimic in a pen test. You just will never be able to. And this is also different from all the news that you see, right? So I'm not talking about Stuxnet or malware, all this crap, all this automated stuff. I'm talking about individuals. There are people who are going to be able to, and who are able to today, infiltrate any organization regardless of the defenses. Okay, so this is I get you. I hear you. I feel your pain. I was there. I've seen so many talks, and the person rambles on and tells me stuff I don't care about, and I'm just like, dude, just teach me the good stuff. Tell me what I want to hear. So bear with me. We got to get through some high-level stuff because it's all related to the reason behind why we can hack any organization, okay? So really, up until this point, it's even been kind of a misnomer because I don't actually care about hacking an organization or their web app or their people. What I want to do is get access to the information and the assets that I choose, whether the information is intellectual property or trade secrets or assets, physical gold and silver, dollars. I want to cash out, right? So keep that in mind. It's not about breaking into a specific technology or accessing a specific web app or having it do something that it wasn't intended to do. It's about that. It's about criminals, what they're going to be able to do, right? It's getting access to actual important, valuable things. And so again, keep in mind, it is not about the technology. We will talk about specific exploits, but so many people get lost in that, okay, I got to break this web app, when really, who cares? Who cares about that web app? It might not even give you anything of real value at the end of it, right? So if I can access an organization, whether there's a web app involved or not, that's what's important. Okay, so last year I talked about organization hierarchy. I'm not going to really cover it here. You can watch last year's video. I described different tiers of organizations. But the point is that any organization can be hacked no matter how sophisticated they are, A being the top, A being the most sophisticated. I also introduced a new way to talk about the different threats in a simple three-tiered approach. So at the bottom, we have dumbass attackers. We have people who, buy malware or download things thinking they're backdoors and they're really backdooring themselves. They sign up for, exploit kits and send them out. Then we move up, we have smart attackers who know the tools, know the techniques, but maybe they're a little bit, homed in on just a few specific things. Then we have advanced attackers. These are the attackers who can infiltrate any organization, all right? So we're going to talk about that, obviously, a lot. You also see that most InfoSec products and services are geared towards blocking the lower level threats. I don't care about the stupid marketing that says they can block APT or whatever. You'll see that it's just not the case based on how the threat operates. You also see that the products and services are geared towards lower tier, less sophisticated organizations. So it's organizations above that level that do things kind of outside the box, but it still doesn't matter because those products don't stop us, and even outside of the box thinking won't stop somebody from getting in. So, quick pop quiz. Who knows what the average take from armed robbery is? Roughly. Give me a rough number. I thought I heard it. What did you say? No, what was it? 700? You're so close. So, in one respect, you're actually right. So, this is from 2010, so it's probably changed a little bit, and I include a link here. So I'll be providing the slide online, besides the fact that it'll be in video. But banks on average in 2010 was $7K from physically entering a bank and robbing them. Average of commercial heists was $1.5K. That's $1,500, okay? I think most people in here make more than that in like a week. Convenience stores, $700. You know how freaking trigger happy those guys are? You're going to run in and almost get shot for $700? Even on minimum wage, it would take you like 2 weeks to make that. It's not worth it. All right? So when we look at that, that is what is changing. Right? Reward, you're banking on average, 7K, and you're going to risk either going to jail or getting shot. It's not a good trade-off. So this is what's different. So now the risk has actually even shrunk from that, and the reward is freaking phenomenal. Who knows the average take from cybercrime? I don't know the friggin' figure. It's something insane. Who cares? It's gigantic. And the risk is so small. That's what's different. All right? The return on investment is also completely inverted. So in the past, it might have taken criminals, all this crazy strategy and planning, and now, I'll just send out, my latest phishing and to everybody and see what I get, right? And it's true also for targeted attacks. So the return on investment, what you're going to get from these attacks, is just, completely amazing. I freaking love this show. If you look back, I think that this is accurate. It's a good parallel to what we're seeing today. It looks very similar. So back in the 1920s, Prohibition, so many fortunes were made during that time period that still last today. So now, those families, they're known as old money, right? They made their riches in the 1920s, selling booze, being bootleggers. So freaking interesting. I honestly think that same time period, 30, 40, 50, 70 years from now, we're going to have cyber criminal families that they're old money because they made so much freaking money so easily anonymously without any issues that they're able to just live the rest of their lives carefree. Don't ask me why I'm still in InfoSec. So how do we get here? Let's talk about all these factors that play into this. And really, there's two main factors. There's economic factors and there's psychological factors. So let's start with economics, okay? Let's look at all the money behind this. And again, keep in mind, some of these are loosely lumped together. But don't ever forget how young not only this industry is, InfoSec, but technology. We are not used to this, all right? Smartphones. Who would have predicted how everyone has smartphones 10 years ago that rival the computers we had on our desks, right? Technology is so freaking young, it's tough to understand what this really means for us. The vulnerability of complexity, not to be confused with the complexity of a specific vulnerability. This is the idea that there's vulnerability inherent in any complex system. And the fact that today the world is by far the most complex. Technology, the internet especially, is the most complex thing we've ever seen. So I had some feelings that maybe just the global politics or global economics is the only thing that's probably rivaled it. But if you really stop and think about it, how many different operating systems we have, different networking gear, how all this stuff across the world is communicating with each other and runs on millions and millions and billions of lines of code. This is by far the most crazy complex time in history. So keep that in mind because there's inherent vulnerability in complexity. So I asked last year, if you were at the talk, don't answer, but can anyone decode this? If you know what it is, because of the previous talk, don't shout it out. Room full of smart people, come on. Awesome, who said it? Raise your hand. Nice job. Time is not your friend. So time is absolutely against the defenders, and completely in the favor of the offensive players, right? So what might be relatively secure today, when a new vulnerability or new exploit or new tool is released tomorrow, you are horribly insecure, all right? Time is absolutely against you. Anyone know what these are called? Nope. Doombas. Yep. So this is the weaponization of software. So again, a decade ago, I never would have guessed how crazy it is to use these awesome advanced techniques and tools today. Right? Metasploit is the perfect example, right? You have people just clicking buttons who don't know what they're doing, and they're popping boxes. It's crazy. So this is really lowering the bar. So even though you might have been able to obtain advanced skills, now you're obtaining them much sooner because it's easy to execute these very, very sophisticated attacks. What's this? Yes, it is a door lock. So new lexicon, new edition. It's an ineffective, ubiquitous device. So these types of things are everywhere, and they don't stop any determined attacker at all for a second. You can pick them, you can shim them, you can sometimes just smash them, you can ignore them and go to a window, right? They don't actually stop directed attackers. They stop, the dumbass and some smart attackers. You come up, you jiggle it, this house is locked, I'm going to go to the other house, all right? We see this in technology. What's up? Yeah, that's an interesting thing, but you'll see that based on so his comment was, what about using that as a technique to push them in a direction you want them to go? So you'll see that that's a really good example, and we'll see that in technology that's kind of mirrored, but we're going to address that, and we're going to talk about how advanced attackers don't care. So we see this within technology, we see antivirus, we see IDS, we see IPS, they're all over the place. Who doesn't have a firewall? Who actually thinks a firewall really matters today? It doesn't. So we see these ineffective, ubiquitous defenses all over the place. So Morpheus was right. So I want to play this really quick. And thanks, dude. Don't shoot. Yeah, never unplugged it. Actually, yeah, do this. Okay. Even if you can't see it, at least you can hear it.
Matrix is everywhere. It is all around us.
Yeah, please hold.
Even now.
This is going to be really, sounds like it's going to be really quiet, but yeah, I'll get it over. That was it. All right, wait for it, wait for it, wait for it.
This is everywhere. It is all around us. Even now, in this very room. You can see it when you look out your window or when you turn on your television. You can feel it when you go to work, when you go to church, when you pay your taxes.
All right. So, thank you, Morpheus. Appreciate it. Let's shoot some. So, all right, that's awesome. Almost there. Okay, so Morpheus was right. He said the matrix is everywhere. But what did he really mean? All right, I think he meant the internet. The internet is everywhere. All right, so let's see if he was right. So the internet is everywhere. It is all around us. Even now in this very room. So who has a smartphone? Guess who's connected to the internet? Let's flip that. Who doesn't have a smartphone? Thanks, Todd. Love you too, buddy. Good, nice job. All right, so even now in this very room, you can see it when you look out your window or when you turn on your television. You can feel it when you go to work, when you go to church, or when you pay your taxes. Right? So the internet has invaded everything, and it's making everything extremely insecure for some very specific reasons. So we'll dive into that again later, but he was absolutely right. Internet and technology is everywhere. It's changing the way we live our lives. What's this? Someone who hasn't seen the previous talk. It's a bathroom scale, but specifically, what is it? Yeah, who said it? What is it? Yes, it has Wi-Fi and a cloud service. Thank you, bathroom scale, for your useless technification. Who looks at a freaking bathroom scale and says, I know, I'm going to connect this thing to the internet? Perfect. You think that thing went through a rigorous security test? All right? Probably not. What's their margin on that thing? And maybe this will never be on your network, but think about all the devices like that just don't go through security reviews. Those are what start making you insecure. So we see this all over the place. So I said last year, it's kind of like Oprah's making these decisions. She's like, you get wireless, everybody's getting wireless. And so the defenders are completely bound by red tape. They have to worry about change control, change management, processes. They got to get budget for security. They got to get approval. They've got to go through testing before it goes into production. All right? What does the attacker have to do? None of that. They try what works. If they knock your system down or break it, too bad, I'm going to try a different way. They have nothing to worry about. So again, time is not on your side. Time is on the attacker's side. So security versus risk management. So security is like being Superman. He's impervious to pain. He can get shot by bullets. He's not real. He's not a human. Batman, however, he is a human being. He invests in security. He buys things. He buys tools to be secure, but he's never going to be bulletproof, right? He always has vulnerabilities. That's what organizations are like. They're going to spend a ton of money protecting themselves, but they're always going to have vulnerabilities. Maybe not vulnerable to dumbass attackers, or smart threats, or dumbass threats, but they will always be vulnerable to the advanced attackers, because we can always come up with ways around those same defenses. It's a numbers game. Defenders have all this crap to worry about. We have to find one chink in the armor, right? I'm not the first person to say that. It's pretty obvious, right? And it's also like fighting the invisible man. So defensive products, antivirus, firewalls, they exist for attackers to look at. I can download antivirus on my machine, disconnect from the internet, and figure out a way to break it. Figure out a way to put malware on it without it detecting it, right? So I put that strain of malware out there, and you have to take a lot of time to figure out that it's there, especially if I'm only putting it on a few key targets that I want to infiltrate, right? So it's absolutely like I have a target to shoot for, but you don't know what the hell you're doing until you see a lot of it. So it's very difficult. And also, don't confuse the fact that individual non-success, I chose not to use the word failure here, doesn't affect an advanced attacker. So yeah, maybe my single phishing email or my backdoor doesn't work this time, but what's going to happen if I really want access to that asset? I'm going to try again or try a different vector. So yes, I'm not saying that everything you deploy is vulnerable. I'm just saying that all of your assets are vulnerable. I can still get access to them regardless of what you put in place. And operationally, so many places, they have their IT guys or, quasi-security guys defending them, right? So they're juggling all these non-security balls. An attacker comes along, shoots them in the face, and, we wonder why they were able to get in, right? Who's this? Is Casey here? All right, who knows who this is? Somebody raise their hand? No, it's not Stanley, although maybe a similar line of work. This is Carl Jung. So we're going to talk about some of the psychological elements to this fact. So last year I spoke about a few more things. Go back and visit that if you want to see them all, but I really picked out the two main psychological things here. Biggest one being that our reality is so completely warped by technology that I truly don't think that we can make good security decisions as individuals, right? That's why people keep failing. That's why people aren't good at defending themselves against phishing and all that. We're so used to dealing, like in a tribal society, individual, face to face. Oh, this jerk-off has a spear and he's coming at me. I should run away, right? But now it's like, okay, I can't leave my computer plugged in and turned on because there's threats that are happening every, millionth of a second, and I'll never comprehend them, and I don't know how they work, and it's because somebody mistyped a quote in their program when they were writing it, right? So I'm not saying that we can't understand how these vulnerabilities work or that we can't come up with good solutions. I'm just saying that this is why we have a gigantic failing in this arena, is because we're not good at managing risk from this perspective. Our minds just aren't built for it. This is a huge piece, offensive versus defensive thinking. If all the defenders in here take away one thing, I'd like you to take away this. Stop doing what you're doing as defenders and start doing it like attackers. The reason why you're failing is because you're deploying security products thinking only defensively rather than attacking those same things and looking at it from the perspective of an attacker. Okay, if I configure my firewall like this with these rules, what would an attacker do? What would they see? Right? Very basic stuff. How would they still try to get in? And if you're not good at that, if you're not good at that mindset or you don't have those tools and techniques, then hire somebody to do it. And that's probably my only sales pitch within this. All right, so intermission. We've been sitting for almost half an hour. Everybody stand up. All right, good. Stretch out. Stretch out. Let me stretch too. Oh, my God. All right, if you've got an attractive person next to you, kiss them. All right, now, man, sit your ass down. All right, let's proceed to the good stuff. Let's talk about skills. Nunchuck skills, computer hacking skills, all right? So actually, the cool thing is that a lot of this stuff, it's not very tactical skills that really elevate you to that advanced level. It's having the right mindset, the philosophy behind it. So let's analyze some of these specific things that I feel help to infiltrate any organization. Anyone else read this? Shonenkai or Shonenki? I'm not positive on the pronunciation. Anyone read it? Okay, everyone in here should read this. It's freaking awesome. So it's the Secret Teachings of the Ninja. This is the actual manual that ninjas read to become ninjas. And there are a couple it's from, look how old it is. See, of course, Justin's the one sneering. Awesome, you douchebag. So there were a few very key points in here that really stood out for me. And the number one thing that I took away from it was that many, many times they kept repeating the same thing, that to be a successful ninja, you can't have any ego. You have to live without ego. It's a really interesting concept that kind of just clicked one day. And I was like, yeah, that makes perfect sense. So their reasoning was, okay, at one point in time, to blend in, a ninja might have to be a part of the royal family and pretend like he's royalty. And then literally just a minute later, he's going to have to roll in manure and act like a lowly farmer. Right? So that's really interesting. Same thing goes with attackers today. To be truly effective, you cannot have your ego in play. You might have to do something really awesome and really cool. Then you might have to do something really stupid and virtually, almost childish to get access to what you want to. And we're going to explore that more in a second. But definitely everybody pick up that book. It's awesome. So this is something I've been preaching about for a little while now. Efficacious and not elite. Do what's effective, do what works, and don't worry about what other people are thinking if it's elite or not. Just do what works to get access to those assets. That's what matters. That's what the criminals care about. That's what you should care about. Anonymity. This is such a huge piece, and we're going to craft our attacks to preserve this. right? And as we progress, what we're going to do is that if our initial attacks fail, we're going to little by little give away little bits of our anonymity in exchange for a greater success rate. And we're going to explore that again in a minute. This is something that I think rings true for every industry, but especially information security. And I can't find the actual person that said this. So I used to be huge into chess as a kid, and this stuck with me from when I was like 10 or 11. But the guy said basically, on his path to becoming a grandmaster at chess, he would learn these new things like he was climbing a ladder. And then when he reached a new plateau, he felt like he kicked the ladder away because he just got a new clear understanding and everything became clear. And then he would do that again. He would continue to progress and get to that new plateau and kick away the ladder. So to be an advanced attacker, that's what you should progress to do. It's a never-ending process. I'm still climbing the ladders. But every time you get there, take a step back and look at that big picture and say, what have I really learned? Do I have a good understanding of what's happening here? Social omniscience. So this is kind of a new term, kind of an ethereal thing. But really, it's taking all of the social engineering elements that we understand today, everything from phishing to tailgating to manipulating people, and understanding the big picture, understanding that there's social elements in every decision that everybody makes, including people who configure firewalls, people we might not ever meet, right? When analyzing an organization, do they have a culture of security, right? Are they going to choose good passwords because they want them? Or are they going to choose the weakest passwords because they're easy to remember? Are they going to configure a firewall a certain way and ignore other things because they don't know how to do those things? So analyzing the actual social elements in everything will give you a huge leg up, and we're going to talk more about this. This dude's awesome. So plain English, social engineering, you can kind of consider tactical one-on-one, whereas social omniscience is the big picture, understanding all of these social elements and how they impact your target. Information in any form, no matter how small, on a target is extremely valuable. So as an advanced attacker, get as much information, no matter how seemingly meaningless it is, but grab it. So there's an underground adage that a hacker knows the network better than the network admin does. And that's definitely true. By the time you're done with it, you know how the network actually looks, not the way it was configured to work, right? Same should go true with the advanced attacker for business. You should know the business better than the target business knows themselves, right? You should understand how they look from a geolocation perspective, their people, their philosophy on security, the types of systems they use, all of that from a business perspective, who their vendors are, how they give them access, how often they give them access. All of this stuff will help you infiltrate any organization. Anyone know who this is? I thought I heard somebody say it. Who said it? Who? Yeah, all right, cool. It's Cary Grant. Thank God you know that. So there's a certain level of elegance to these attacks. And we're going to talk more about this, but it comes back to being efficacious and not elite, doing what's simple, but just being elegant, right? Not overthinking the problem, not overthinking the solution, and you'll see this also as a recurring theme. Patience is huge, obviously, for an advanced attacker. If time is on your side, no reason to push it today. Give yourself 6 months. If 6 months will net you, a couple $1 million, whether it's, physical cash or intellectual property, it might be worth it. Prepare. Preparation is huge for an advanced attacker. So we're going to talk more about that today and in future talks. But preparing for the specific target you're going to get to is key. Targeting the weakest link. Obvious thing. It's in every talk. Advanced attackers will target the weakest link, and that's the point. Yo. Sure. All right, so again, target the weakest link. Exploitless exploits. This is something I've also been talking about a lot when talking about efficacious and not elite. So we're going to cover some things in here that are not exploits in the traditional sense, but they're still exploiting vulnerabilities. So if you focus on these types of exploits, this is where every organization is vulnerable. Not everyone's vulnerable in firewalls configurations, some are. Not everyone's vulnerable in web applications, some of them are. But if you focus on these that don't require those types of very specific technical memory corruption, those types of things, you will break into any organization. So you'll see that more in a second. So pop quiz. What's the difference between a backdoor and a legitimate program? Anybody know?
I would say the legitimate program.
Wrong. Nothing. Shut the fuck up. There's no difference between a backdoor and a legitimate program. So program and what's the dude? Who was the dude that gave a similar talk? It was the light guy. I don't know. There was a good talk. He was saying similar stuff to make your program look like a legitimate program. How many programs does everybody download that wants to install an updater that connects to the internet and download stuff and post GET requests, post usage data? So why do we need crazy sophisticated backdoors? Thanks, dude. Wow, we gotta rush. So why do we need crazy sophisticated backdoors when that stuff will work? All right, we don't need crazy sophisticated backdoors. All right, so let's look at some of the key pieces of the thought process. No rules. Advanced attackers don't have any rules. You shouldn't either. KISS, keep it simple, stupid. Elegant, efficient, efficacious and not elite. Just keep it simple. Think outside the box. We might have to rush through this, but last year I talked about thinking outside the box, and I said I wanted to kind of go over some ways to actually think outside the box. So we're going to do that really quick here, and I'm going to really speed up my speaking. But really, it's actually very, very hard to teach somebody how to think outside the box. So first of all, this is a horribly contrived example, right? But this is what everybody's mind first goes to. Who's seen the 9 dots problem? Yeah, probably most of you. Who hasn't seen the 9 dots problem? All right, so think about it really quick. If the rules are connect the dots by drawing 4 straight continuous lines that pass through each of the 9 dots and never lifting the pencil from the paper. So 4 lines, can you go through all those dots? Probably. Nice. So most people, they start 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, I missed the center. I'll hit the center. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, I missed those 2. So let's look at the solution. 1, outside the box. 2, 3, 4. Contrived example, everyone goes here, but it gets us thinking, okay, it's a cool example, they're telling us to think outside the box, but what do we really learn from this, right? How do we actually come to that answer if we actually had the time? So there's a few key things here. One is the rules themselves were misleading, right? So we made some assumptions that got in our way. So if we had ignored those preconceived ideas, then we would have come to that conclusion. And maybe that's how people who do solve that come to that conclusion. So let's see if we can duplicate that. So first of all, maybe there are other answers. That's not the only answer, right? Maybe if we take those dots which are facing us, turn them like this, right? And just do 1 line straight through them, right? We could easily do that with 4 lines, 1, 2, 3, 4, right? Does that work? We weren't given those rules. Maybe that would work. What about quantum physics? Maybe there's 1 line that exists in all of those right now, and we just have to measure it, right? Who knows? And there's other examples, right? This is just 2 seconds of thinking. So think outside that box and come up with non-traditional answers. So come on, sit on Tyler's lap for 1 minute. I want to tell you a funny story. So this is from a vaudeville comedian, and I think it paints a really cool picture about thinking outside the box. So this guy at the Mexican border, he sees a guy coming across the border on a bike with a box on the front of it. And so he says, sir, I need to look inside your box. He looks in there, there's only sand, and he says, okay, I don't see anything, go on your way. Comes back the next day, same thing, bike with a box of sand on it. He looks through it, doesn't see anything, sends him on his way. This goes on for months and months, and they're testing the sand. They're snorting it, smoking it, seeing what's in it. They can't figure it out. There's nothing in the sand. It's just sand. And so finally, he sees the guy years and years later, and he's walking down the road, and he runs up to him. He goes, hey, I have to know this. We knew you were smuggling something. What were you smuggling? And the guy looks at him and he goes, bicycles. So it's kind of cool. It's a funny example, but that's the point. Stop looking at what they want you to look at and look at what they're not leading you to. And so another example of this is questioning. So when I was young, one of the very few times I was awake and at high school, I remember what a teacher said. I was maybe, again, like 13 or so. And she complained. She said, I deal with my kids and I tell them, don't touch the fire because you're going to get burned. And what do? They touch the fire. Just listen to me. Listen to what I say. And that stuck in the back of my mind. I'm like, no, there's something wrong with that. There's something inherently wrong with what she's saying. And I couldn't figure out. And so finally, years and years later, I figured it out. I'm like, well, how do I know what her definition of pain is, right? Don't I need that subjective experience to understand what pain is? Maybe I can, withstand it. Maybe I want to know what it feels like for later reference in case I'm getting burned when my eyes are shut. Maybe I enjoy it. Maybe that type of pain feels good. But that's the point. We have to question what people are telling us. So, if I'm telling you to question everything, should you even question that fact that you should question everything? So yeah, you should. So before you have an aneurysm, let's just move on and take that away and consider what that really means. So let's look at some practical things. So first of all, understand that I'm trying to teach you the unteachable. You can't really teach somebody. They just have to acquire that skill of how to think outside the box. So first of all, think without a filter. Don't think with those preconceived rules. Just start spewing out ideas. Determine those actual traditional answers and say, do I have to adhere to these answers or can I do something completely the opposite of these? Can I ignore them entirely? Can I reverse it? Can I start with the end goal and say, okay, I want to draw these lines, what would get me there? Or I want to infiltrate this organization, what will get me there? Without thinking of those defenses in place. And again, think through the pain. This is another chess reference talking about like gambit. So when you sacrifice a piece, a lot of people say, okay, I can't do that, I'm going to lose this piece. But if you actually think through the pain and say, if I do that, what will they do? And there's some really cool implications for actual security here. For example, what if you're trying to break into an organization and you DDoS their primary pipe? What are they going to do? Well, they put all their effort there, and you can then slip into a remote office or take a different tactic and physically break in, right? It's this idea of thinking through the pain. What will they do? Can I use that to my benefit? That can be advantageous. And again, there's more. I'm trying to teach the unteachable. Just take this away. Give me your good ideas. This is an awesome place for feedback. So now, with 5 minutes to spare, let's get to the main reason why you're here. So again, look forward to version 3, where I'm going to cover even more tactical, very specific technical stuff, talk about case examples that I've been through and all that. So first of all, ask yourselves, how do you think most people choose their attack path today? And then ask yourselves, how do you choose your attack path today? If you're a pen tester or just a criminal, how do you do it? You probably just choose what you're good at, right? You choose what you know. I'm good at web apps, I'm going to stick with web apps. All right? But what you should be like is this. Simple attack preference. Going to go a little bit over too. Do I have like 10 minutes from here? Cool. Okay. So we should be able to cover all this. So here's the simple attack preference. Take it for what it is right here. We're going to dive into each one of these. Recon to start with. Recon for an advanced attacker is extremely important. Remember, the goal is to understand the business better than they do. You want to understand not only all the technology there, you want to understand the people and the culture. You want to gather as much information as you can. Keep social omniscience in the forefront of your mind. Don't just rely on automation. I've found so much good information that you can't get through the tools by literally just browsing their website, by Googling them, by Googling the news. Right? This is such valuable information. Consider the business in the recon. Remember, not just the technical stuff, but the actual business, how it operates. Abraham Lincoln, very smart person. Has everyone heard of Abraham Lincoln? He was a president. All right, good. So he has a quote, if I had 8 hours to chop down a tree, I'd spend the first 6 sharpening the axe, something along those lines. So sharpen that axe. This is your axe sharpening, doing proper recon. There was an awesome recon talk earlier, Recon NG framework. That thing looks pretty cool. Let's go play with that. Spear social engineering. Don't target a lot of people. After your recon, where you've sharpened that axe for 6 hours, you should know who you're going to target, why, and with what. So whether it's an individual email, a website, a non-standard phishing attack, you could even do it through SMS. Again, don't get mired down in, well, this is the way everybody else does it, and this is what we do on social engineering engagements. If I truly want to own an organization, I can start with something as simple as, texting them and making it look like it comes from one of their friends. Say, hey, did you see this awesome deal on this thing that I know you love? Set up a website, put the URL up there, and say, okay, you got to sign in to use this. If it's the correctly chosen person, maybe they'll either use that same password that they use all over the place, or they're going to at least give you insight into how they choose it, and you can construct a really good dictionary. All right? So it's doing things like that. Spear social, targeting one person. Maybe this fails once. Maybe you target another person. Most organizations, you're going to have a gigantic list of people who you can spear social. All right? I myself do not consider myself to be impervious to spear social engineering. If you craft the right thing at the right time with the right message and potentially the right technical exploit, I definitely know for a fact I could get owned. Now, it's not going to happen anytime soon, but I do know for a fact that there are people who are not technical who you can spear social without any problem. Okay, so you start there. Next, if that doesn't work, if you can't spear social a person, targeting remote workers is awesome, right? So think about it. And let me, I can't see this too well on mine. So let's start with their homes, right? How unprotected are homes? Is this something that we can really test for in pen tests? Probably not, okay? I've tried slipping it into a few scopes, just doesn't work. So you can either, fish their little kid, their wife, get a backdoor into their computer and monitor it. Time's on your side. Just wait for that one time when, I forgot my laptop at work. I'm going to log into my email from here. Does email also get you VPN access? Maybe. Homes are so unprotected, and we allow our people to work from anywhere. Coffee shops, obviously, I don't need to tell you about Wi-Fi hotspots and all that stuff and all the capabilities there. So sit in a truck, monitor what they're doing, get access to all this data. If they're in a bar, steal their phone, backdoor it. Right? You don't have to worry about exploits on the phone. Get physical access to it. Backdoor it. Sir, I think you dropped this. Oh, thanks, buddy. Thanks for handing me my phone. Right? It's now backdoored. You can see everything they're doing. You could get them while they're traveling. Anybody who travels a lot and posts where they're going, it is so incredibly easy. I mean, there have literally been talks only on how to break into hotel rooms, both technically and socially. It's extremely easy. So is that the weakest link? It might be. So if none of those things are available to us, maybe they don't have remote workers, maybe they have a crazy awesome corporate understanding of security and everyone's making good choices, they have good phishing protection, it's just not working, then we move on to hardware and social engineering, right? So how difficult do you think it would be if I set up a nice campaign over the course of a month, and I called up your accountant or head of marketing or whoever and said, hey, I see you're using vendor X for this service. I'd really like to get you a trial copy of our program. Now, you could either have created a legitimate looking website, or you could be purporting to be from an actual legitimate company, in which case you download their trial software, backdoor it, put it on a CD or USB drive, type up a nice message and say, I'm going to send it to you. You let me know when you get a chance to take a look at that, how you feel about our software. I'd really appreciate it. Because it's a custom backdoored executable, no AV is going to pick it up. It's going to operate just like a real program. It's just the, vendor X updater. Who cares about that? Is it going to be difficult to spot that? Are we testing that today? Can we use that to break into almost any organization? Yes, we can. Every head should be nodding. Okay, they're still not nodding. I'll move on. There are other very good options. Teensy's freaking awesome. Backdoor a keyboard. Create just random gadgets and backdoor those and send them over. And then we can rely on the old school stuff. We can set up AV surveillance, right? If we can break into places, break into their homes, or monitor specific locations, we can monitor for things that are advantageous for us to see. And then we fall back on breaking in, because physical security also has so many freaking holes. So what can we do if we get physical access? Number one thing I like to do is backdoor the actual computers. I'm not worried about taking stuff or getting access to crazy places, get access to the server room. I'm going to backdoor something and walk out, because it takes me literally 60 seconds. I'm going to pop in my USB drive. It's going to auto run. If it doesn't, I'm going to double click it. If I have time, I'll dump some hashes, walk out, right? How much time does that take? We can plant devices, again, audio, video surveillance. We can plant callback devices, keyloggers. We can plant curious CDs. Again, we know the target audience. Maybe we'll put a CD with this vendor, or this vendor sucks, or whatever, and get somebody to pick it up. Put it on desks. They'll walk in and say, hey, who put this on my desk? I don't know. Let me see what's on it, right? We can steal assets and determine whether or not we want to return them or not. Consider that fact. If you return it, if you're there, you walk into the bathroom with somebody's laptop, you backdoor it and put it back, anyone going to look at those cameras that they've invested so much in? Is there any reason to? No, right? So you got to determine, okay, I can steal it if I want and take that information on it, or I can just backdoor, and now I have a backdoor to their network. Again, if they drop stuff, you can hand it to people, say, hey, did you drop this? Some of you might be thinking, okay, Tyler, didn't you talk about earlier how physically breaking into a place, there's implications of getting shot or going to jail? Yes, there is, but, I didn't mean to click that, but the risks are completely different. Think about that. If you went in to rob a bank or steal something from a place, right, you're walking out with a huge, basically like a filing cabinet of files, somebody stops you and says, sir, are those your files? Right? That's a difficult story to get out of. But if all you have on you is your car keys and a tiny USB stick that you can hide anywhere, including your butt, which I am speaking about completely hypothetically, are they going to have anything on you? Think about all of the stories you could come up with regardless of where you are. Oh, I was here to see Jim, and you know that Jim's on vacation because you already found that out. But he's not here, so you know what? Don't worry about it. I'll come back later. I forgot he's on vacation. And hey, when you're here tomorrow, ask Kathy how she's doing, and I'll come back tomorrow. All right, that's what's different. It's so much harder for people to actually understand what's happening than it was in the old days. So the risks there are much smaller. Again, consider the back doors. You can backdoor something, walk out, and nothing's changed from their perspective, right? Very, very interesting. Also from that regard, I've given specific physical access talks before. I always leave myself a way out. So it's interesting, people who say, yeah, no one will ever get past me. Okay, yeah, who cares? Yeah, maybe again, I will fail at this specific thing. Maybe I won't be able to get past this security guard. But you know what? I'm going to come back when it's a different security guard and drop your name, and I'm going to probably get in. So I'm always going to leave myself a way to get out. So be suspicious of those people as well. Are we looking at those people today? Right? If somebody does that, and they have a really good story, but they're not getting through our process, but they walk away, do we ever hear of that? That's what the advanced attacker takes advantage of. So I'm sorry for having to rush so much. It looks like we have just a few minutes for questions. So first of all, did I change any minds? Was anyone skeptical or unsure or didn't believe me that now thinks that it is possible? Okay, not a single hand. You can all go to hell. I took a picture. I know who you are. Guess what's going to happen? All right, so no one changed their minds. Fair enough. Look forward to version 3. We'll cover some very tactical stuff, and maybe I'll give some real information behind it. But one last message. Wait for it. Wait for it. Wait for it.
Adios, turd nuggets.
All right, so that's all I got. Adios, turd nuggets.